So Apple finally gave us its first iteration of what Apple Intelligence is going to be looking like, especially on the Siri front with their iOS 18.1 beta update. And as of recording this video, we are on the beta 2 version of 18.1, and even from just beta 1 to beta 2 on 18.1, I've seen some drastic improvements and differences between what Siri is capable of. So what I want to do in this video is compare 17.0 Siri versus 18.1 Siri and see exactly what to expect moving forward. Now, a little bit of a caveat here, Apple Intelligence is still not fully there, we're still missing a bunch of Apple Intelligence features in general, and Siri is still not reaching out to ChatGPT for any additional help. So what I'm going to do here is go through a couple different prompts and requests and compare both 17.0 Siri to 18.1 Siri and see exactly if it's any better at the current state. Because as I said, Siri on 18.1 has been getting some drastic improvements, but is it really just kind of a visual thing that looks a little bit nicer, or are we actually getting some better functionality out of Siri already? Without further ado, let's compare these two things and get into it, everybody. Well, alright everybody, let's hop right into this comparison. As you can see here, I actually have a 13 mini on the left-hand side and then a 15 Pro Max on the right-hand side. The 13 mini is running the latest version of whatever 17.x is going to be. So if I go into my general, we'll go into the about. It is running 17.4.1, and then I am on 18.1 beta 2 on the 15 Pro Max over here. So this is going to be a great comparison between the two devices and the two series. Now, the next thing I do want to quickly go over is my Siri settings for each of these. So if I go to the 13 mini and go to my Siri settings, I do have it so it listens for these different commands that I can push the side button, because we are going to look at responsiveness. And if I go to my Siri settings over here, I got to go to my Apple Intelligence. And you can see here that it's also going to be listening for things when I am actually speaking. So I will mute out as best I can all the different Siri stuff, just to make sure that it doesn't turn on your devices. But let's hop right into this video and start with the first thing, which is going to be responsiveness from the lock screen. So if we lock the devices and say the command, let's see what happens. What's the weather? So as you saw from the lock screen, they're both very responsive, but one last thing that I actually turned off is the Siri response to be turned off. So whenever Siri does give me the answer to whatever I'm looking for, it's only going to give it to me on screen versus giving it to me with spoken language, because I don't want to deal with that. But the next thing I want to do is responsiveness from the home screen. So let's go with, what's the weather today? So it looks like Siri on the 13 mini won again. So next up, I want to see the responsiveness when you're inside of an application, and then see if you can actually interact with that application after the fact. So if we say, what's the weather? You can see that it's written out here, and then if I actually interact here, you can quickly interact with the actual page behind it, versus with Siri, it'll turn it off here. And there's some elements with the new Siri that still allow you to interact with the actual UI behind Siri, versus with 17.0 and the old Siri, you cannot interact with the UI at all when Siri is on, which I always thought was a little bit weird. Well, now let's get into the fun stuff, and I'm breaking this down into a couple of different categories on location-based prompts, then we're going to do some fact-based ones, some system-based ones, and then finally we'll do some problem-solving or knowledge-based ones, which is more so just arithmetic and math problems to kind of get at a glance. But let's get into the location-based ones, and we're going to see exactly how this does from both a quick answering perspective as well as some contextual rules perspective. So, what's the weather today? What about in Miami? Now tell me what the weather is like in Madrid. How long is it going to take me to drive to Philadelphia? What's the weather there? What should I do when I get there? So as you saw here, they were pretty neck and neck in terms of the responsiveness and what exactly you got out of it. At the end there, I did ask it what I could do when I got to Philadelphia, and it looks like 17.0 Siri gave me just a list of what to do when we're there, versus 18.1 Siri literally just took me to the maps and then navigated me towards over there. So that's something to take into consideration. I'll try it one more time to see if we can get some idea of what to do in Philly. What should I do in Philadelphia? So again, they both just give me a list of what to do from Google, which is fine, because again, it's not going to be able to do it. but maybe in the future, and when Siri does get better with Apple Intelligence, it'll actually give me a list of what to do, and it'll also pick out things that are already in my system to figure out exactly what to do in Philly. But as of right now, they're pretty neck and neck, just visually it looks a little bit different. So next up, let's do some fact-based questions. So we're gonna ask it information about Tim Cook and things like that, and let's see if it can still contextually stay relevant when I am asking these questions, and we might switch it up in the middle of it. So, how old is Tim Cook? Where was he born? How long has he worked for Apple? What was his favorite color? Where does Tim Cook live? How do I get there? So as you can see there, kind of that last moment, which is me asking how to get to where Tim Cook lives, it looks like it did take into consideration everything, and it's telling me exactly where to go on the iPhone 15 Pro Max running 18.1. Versus on the 13 mini, it did not give me any of that information. It just took me to a Wikipedia page or some links to go over to see exactly where to go. So now let's try some other fact-based questions. So, when were the Miami Dolphins founded? Where do they play? Who is their quarterback? How many yards did he have last year? So as you can see here, it did get a little bit lost on both sides. It looks like the 18.1 Siri got one step farther by giving me a list of the quarterbacks that play for the Miami Dolphins. But again, at the very end of it, once you start getting very specific in the questions that you want to ask in terms of knowledge-based or factual questions, it's going to end up taking you and defaulting to giving you a Wikipedia link or a bunch of different other Google searches to take into consideration. Let's try one more fact-based one. Where is the Empire State Building? When was it created? How tall is it? Can you navigate me there? So as you saw, again, it goes down to that last step, that final mile, where 18.1 does have the upper hand because it can contextually get into the applications and then give you the information needed. So we'll give that point again to 18.1, but it's really not that crazy of a difference as of right now. So now let's get into some system-based questions, and these questions are going to be all about how to use the different settings and maybe different features, how to toggle stuff off and on, and see if Siri can get into the actual settings and change things for you, or not only that, but teach you how to do it yourself. So let's start off with some simple ones. How do I enable dark mode? Can you turn it on? So as you saw there, 18.1 did give me the step-by-step protocol on how to go into dark mode, versus 17.4 or the old Siri didn't really know what to do with it and just kind of started trying to turn me into dark mode. Let's try a different one. Can you set my brightness to 50%? Now set it to 75%. Can you set the screen brightness to 100%? So this one was a little bit back and forth in terms of which one won this one. They both were able to change the brightness for me, so that was a good one. So it looks like that is able to do it. Let's try a different one. Play Justin Bieber. Can you pause the music? So they both were able to get me to the song that I wanted to. They both were able to open Apple Music and it worked just fine. And then we were able to pause it as well. Now let's try to go into some other settings. So, how do I turn off Wi-Fi? So as you saw there, I got information of what I actually wanted with 18.1 versus with 17.4 in the old Siri. It asked me if I wanted to just toggle it off and on. But you can actually have the system turn it off and on for you. So for instance, can you turn off Wi-Fi? Can you turn it back on? All done, thank you. So as you saw, you are able to toggle off and on certain settings. Let's try a couple more system-based ones and see exactly what we can get. Can you open Safari and go to ESPN.com? So this is another great example of how the new version of Siri is a lot more powerful in terms of being able to not only take you to that application, but then also type in an address for you to go to after the fact. Can you go to 9to5mac.com? So this is where Siri does start to win on the newer version with 18.1. Let's open up a couple other ones. Let's try one more. Send a message to Tobal. You want to hang out today? So as you saw there, they were both able to pull up the iMessage, pull out the dictation, and then be able to send it on my behalf, which is great to see. They both work well in that respect. So now the last section is going to be all about knowledge-based questions. We're going to ask it some math problems, see if it can figure it out, and then see how far along contextually it can stay relevant to what I'm asking it. So let's get right into it. What's 2 plus 2? Multiply it by 4. Multiply that by 100. Divide by 10. Subtract 75. Multiply by 1,000. Divide that in half. And it looks like they both got stuck there when I asked it to divide it by half, which again, it could be just my jargon in terms of saying half instead of divide by 2, but that's to each their own. As you saw, it got pretty far with both sides contextually in the math problem. So obviously I'm going to give the leg up to iOS 18 over here, or 18.1, but iOS 17 as of right now isn't that far off. Normally it's that kind of last mile or needing to get into an application, getting specific into what you want that application to do. That's where 17.0 Siri does fall flat on its face. Apple AI will make this better, it will get better, but as of right now, I would say the old Siri gets you about 90% of the functionality, but the iOS 18.1 Siri does give you some awesome animations and gives you just a little bit more in terms of that last mile. Let's finish up this video. So as I mentioned there at the very end, it kind of looks like iOS 17 and iOS 18's version of Siri aren't super different from a functionality standpoint. Clearly we saw with 18.1 and the brand new Siri and some of the Apple intelligence is that it's a little bit more ingrained natively into each of the individual applications, and it's able to kind of give you that last mile, especially when it came to maybe mapping out where you were going or opening up a specific website on Safari and things like that. But when it came to some of the more kind of fact-based questions and those somewhat contextual rules, 17.0 Siri pretty much got you 90 to 95% of the way there. Like I said, it was just that last mile that really illuminated what 18.1 will eventually get to when it comes to Apple intelligence. Also, as I said, 18.1 is only giving us the bare minimum of Apple intelligence. We got the new animations, we got some better contextual rules in terms of being able to realize what's going on, and you can deep dive a little deeper into each individual application. So again, this is just a starting point, and we're going to revisit this video once it does come out in October, because that's probably when we're going to get the 18.1 release for everybody. So definitely stay tuned, leave some questions down below in terms of what else I should test out. Are there any specific use cases, any specific kind of prompts that you want me to give it? Because I will be making another video, like I mentioned, in about a month or so to see exactly what the differences are and how much better Apple AI has really gotten over time. But that'll do it, everybody. If you made it to the end, leave a little dolphin in the comments down below so I know you made it to the end. And if you guys want to watch more videos like this one, click on one of these right here. And until next time, I'm Fernando. Peace, everybody. If you guys want to pick up some of the wallpapers that you see in here, definitely become a channel member to get those wallpapers on a monthly basis. We get new ones every single month. But peace, everybody.